welcome, Natasha, to the show.
Hi, Nicola. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. So, if you just start by telling us, obviously, you're in the fitness industry, but what is your role in the fitness industry and how long have you been in the industry?
I've been in the fitness industry since about 2008. So for the last 8 years. And I'm a group exercise, predominantly I'm a group exercise instructor. So I teach like the classes in gyms. Um, yeah, sometimes I've done some one-to-one as well, but yeah, mainly just doing the group exercise classes.
So, would you mind just telling us a little bit about your history? So, your story, basically, how I managed to get in contact with you and why you're on the show today.
So my story, well, I mean, it starts well before the fitness industry, but I think that I probably developed sort of disordered eating and not a very good relationship with my body and with food when I was in my late teens, because that's where I would get a lot of my affirmation, a lot of my value and worth would be to do with my body, how I looked. And when I started to so basically I used to get a lot of affirmation from how I looked and from my body, but at the time I was also drinking a lot, and so when people started to notice that and notice that my figure was changing, that's when an alarm bell went off in me, and that's when I started to make myself sick or restrict my food, lie to flatmates about whether or not I'd had my dinner, just things like that. And that's when the body obsession really, really started. So I was probably about 18, 19, and I'm now 39, and I've been in recovery from that for the last sort of properly, I would say, about 4 years.
So would you say obviously this all started when you were about 18, but what led you to, you're saying, being sick? What led you to those behaviours? What led you to believe that that would influence your body?
Um, Gosh, do you know what? I actually don't know. I don't even know I don't even remember learning it or hearing it anywhere. It almost just came instinctively that I just did it. And now I know as well that for me, certainly, my journey has been quite an emotional one, and learning about um, the emotions and things that were driving that kind of behavior. So I know that for me, that wasn't really about the food, and it wasn't really about my body. It was about me trying to take control, and it was about me not being able to feel certain feelings and not liking how I felt on the inside, and so trying to control that.
So were you aware of eating disorders at the time?
Um, not not consciously. I mean, looking back, I think actually it was going on in my environment growing up, but it, like, people close to me, family members, but not that I consciously remember, only because certain family members will now say to me, "Oh yeah, I was always dieting, or I was doing this, or I was doing that." So I must have subconsciously picked it up as a kid, but it's not anything I consciously remember.
Yeah.
And also the environment I was living in around the age of 18, 19, I was living abroad, um, in a sort of a bar nightclub environment, and there was just a lot of talk about who had a good body and who had this and who had a nice bum and who. So I was in that environment, you know.
Okay, so when did you know that you were ill and suffering from an eating disorder?
When did I know that I was ill? So I think I did it for years without actually acknowledging that it was an issue, and I'd hide it from people. I think when I was about 24, I had, well, I suppose what some people would call a spiritual experience, and I became a Christian, and then my perspective on life started to change, and I had more of a spiritual journey in life. And after a couple of years of that, I think that's when I started to think this isn't right, because on one hand I'm going on this kind of spiritual journey, and my life's changing, and I'm wanting to look after myself and treat myself, you know, better than I have done in the past. But then at night, I'm going home and I'm binging my head off and then sticking my head down the toilet and hating myself when I look in the mirror for it. So, yeah, so that was probably around my mid-20s.
Okay, so did you go to your GP about it? How did you actually get help? What was the process?
I did go to my GP. Initially, yeah, I did go to my GP. Initially, I would just get loads of people at church to pray for me all the time. And then I would go home and I'd think, why hasn't it gone? Why? I don't understand what's wrong with me. You know, people have prayed for me. Why am I still doing this? And then I remember I've had quite a few rock bottoms along the journey, but I remember one of them. There's some really significant rock bottoms. And one of them was being in my house the whole weekend. And I closed my curtains. I unplugged my house phone in the days when I still actually used a house phone. I turned off my mobile. And all I did for the whole weekend, from like Friday night till through to Monday morning, is I just binged and made myself sick, binged and made myself sick. That's all I did. And I hid under the covers and I completely isolated. And I think the Monday morning I got up and I thought, I need help with this. And I walked to my doctor's surgery and I just said, I've got a problem and I need help. I don't actually remember what the doctor did. I can't remember finding it that helpful, actually. But I think after that, I went to find a counsellor, and the counsellor was a lot bigger than me. And I remember her saying to me, you know, why do you? And I remember sitting there and her saying to me, you know, why do you want to make yourself sick? And my whole thing was because I don't want to be fat. And I remember at the time she said to me that that's not what it's about. Eating disorders are not really about that. It's about a deeper issue. But I think at the time I wasn't ready to deal with it because I didn't bother going back there. Yeah. I just thought she was talking a load of nonsense. And actually all it was about for me was, no, I'm just scared of putting on weight. But now looking back, she was right.
Did you think that because of her body shape and size?
What do you mean? Did I think
that she was saying that just because she was bigger than you?
No, I don't even think I had like the emotional. I don't think I even had the capacity to think about it like that deeply then. But I do remember her saying to me, "How would you feel if you had a body shape and size like mine?" And I remember saying to her, "Well, you know, that's fine for you, but that it's not for me." And in my head, I remember thinking I would want to kill myself.
Obviously, you wouldn't say that out loud.
No, I know. Yeah. I mean, yeah, actually, yeah. Well, no, at the time, I didn't feel able to say that to her out loud.
So you agreed with what she said, that your eating disorder stemmed from a deeper issue?
Yeah, like I didn't at the time. At the time, I thought, oh, you know, whatever, what a load of nonsense. I just am scared of putting on weight. But that was, I was in my mid-20s then, and I'm now 39. So I've had quite a journey in that last, you know, 10, 15 years. And I now know that what she said was true. I just know it from my own personal experience, my journey. That's what it's been for me. It's not really been about my body. It's not really been about a weight issue. Excuse me. It's not really been about any of that. It's actually been to do with very deep-seated emotional issues that I had, really, really deep wounding that started very young. And I just found many things, and one of them was disordered eating and obsessing about my body to help me to deal with those emotions.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was like the feeling of having control that you didn't have in your life that you then had to have with your food, or controlling your body the way that it looked?
Yeah, definitely. Although at the time I didn't know that. So it's only been in recent years that I have come to a place where I realise a lot of it has been to do with control. So on some deeper level, I was trying to get control of a world that had been so chaotic for me. And it is an illusion of control, because I realise logically that if I control what I eat, or if I control my body weight, that's not actually going to control the people around me or circumstances around me. But it was like a feeble, desperate attempt to try and get some control in a world that felt really unsafe to me.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you say that it was to do with deeper issues, because there's many reasons why people would get eating disorders. And something that I read in the book Brain Over Binge by Catherine Hansen was that all of the therapies that she had tried to say that to her, that it was actually because of some deep down reason or some psychological problem or something elsewhere, when actually hers, which I think mine was as well, was a physiological reason, because we took that first diet. And she talks in the book about being a certain age where when you're a teenager and your brain's still developing, you're quite susceptible to things like this happening. And then if you take your diet during that time, just the physiological reaction to starving, it causes you to binge. And then that first binge purge cycle then spirals into an eating disorder.
That makes perfect sense to me. And that's not the first time I've heard that kind of thing. It's like I've had different help for some of these issues, and some of the help I got would say that once you do it that first time, like, you have to stay away from restricting and over exercising and binging and all of these different things, or making yourself sick, or whatever it is, however it manifests for you, because once you do it, it can like spiral. So I have heard that before, and it makes perfect sense to me. So it might be, I mean, I would absolutely believe it's a bit of everything, really.
Yeah, but I think certainly body image would be something that goes on in your head to make you take that first diet, and not feeling like you're good enough in the way that your looks are, and that you are able to change your looks. I mean, we all know that we can't change our height, so we just accept it, but we think that we can edit our bodies, so we try and do that. That's the one thing that we think we can control. So that was you back then. So obviously you had your first set of counselling. How did you get to the place that you're at now? Obviously it's taken a long time, and it's a process, something you're probably still working on in some ways. But how, looking back, what was like the next step to the journey?
So after I saw that first counsellor, I just didn't want to deal with it after that. And it wasn't a conscious thought of I'm not ready, but I think looking back, that's what it was. I just wasn't ready to deal with whatever it was I had to deal with. So I carried on doing what I was doing for however many years after that. And part of that involved, gosh, I'm trying to remember how it all fits together, but part of that involved then becoming qualified to be a fitness instructor. At the time, I used to go to the gym a lot, and I had a job that I hated because it was like in finances, and I'm not a financial person at all. And I hated the job, and I used to go to the gym a lot. And one day I just thought, do you know what? I'm just going to qualify and be a fitness instructor. And it didn't feel unhealthy at all. It just felt like, oh, this is my calling. I'm going to be a fitness instructor. And so I left that job and I qualified to be a fitness instructor. So part of the whole when I was very unwell with the disordered eating and the body image stuff and all of that, part of it looked quite healthy on the outside. So I remember going through a stage where I would teach my classes, but actually every class was like my own workout. And I would get really irritated if people needed me to, see, correct their form or whatever it was, because I would want to do my workout. So I was exercising obsessively. For example, if I had a biscuit, my next thing would be like, I need to run that off. So exercise my motive wasn't a loving thing. It was quite a punishing and driven thing. But on the outside, like, I looked quite healthy. I was fit, I was strong, I was drinking loads of water, I wasn't drinking alcohol, I wasn't eating sugar, I wasn't eating white flour. And actually, even now, sometimes I can hear friends saying to me, oh, I've never seen you look better, Tasha, at that time. And that's something I have to fight against now, because actually I wasn't very well. So it went on for a few more years, and I was still making myself sick and still doing all these things. And then I remember I had another rock bottom, and I was sat in my bedroom one day and I was on the phone to a friend, and I was like, I cannot stop making myself sick and throwing up and binging and doing all this madness. And I was crying, and I was going, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. And this friend at the time said, I don't know if anyone's seen the film Officer and a Gentleman. It's a really good film. It's a bit old now, Richard Gere. And there's a bit where there's a wall and they're training like for the Navy, I think it is, or whatever it was. and there's a wall, and somebody's trying to get over it, and she can't get over it. And so another soldier like comes back to help her over the wall. And my friend said to me at the time, sometimes, Tasha, we just need someone to help us over the wall. So maybe you can just pray and ask God to give you someone to help you over the wall. And I got off the phone and I was on the floor in my bedroom, crying my eyes out and just going, God, please just send me someone to help me get over the wall. And that night I went out somewhere that I really didn't want to go to. And it was just all orchestrated. It was like God had orchestrated it. I met this other counsellor. I was ready then. I started meeting with her. She then told me about Overeaters Anonymous. I started going there. Then I left there, and it's just continued. I've done group therapy. But for me, the foundation of my recovery has been spiritual, like without a shadow of a doubt.
So just going back to you getting into the fitness industry then, do you think that you were ill and that drove you to fitness is a way of exercising off your food and making yourself feel better about it, all the shame and guilt? Or do you think that it just was coincidence, but then in the industry you then had this ability to be able to exercise as much as you like and hide all of the issues that you were having by appearing healthy by doing all this exercise?
Do you know what? That's a really good question. And I don't think it was a conscious thing, maybe subconsciously. Partly I think it was just part of my journey, and I was meant to go into the fitness industry and I was meant to do all that. It's all part of my journey. I don't know if subconsciously all that stuff was driving me, but it certainly wasn't a conscious thing. So I didn't consciously think, oh, if I'm a fitness instructor, I can exercise all the time. It wasn't a conscious decision at all. But then being in the fitness industry did help me to fuel it. And then also because suddenly I was in an environment, I was working in front of a mirror most of the time. So I'm always seeing myself, and then people were looking to me like, well, you're the fitness instructor. You are the epitome of health and fitness. So you're going to be able to guide me. You're the expert. But they didn't know that I was going home at night and binging and making myself sick. And sometimes I'd feel really guilty because I think, I don't want you, I'd be thinking, I don't want you ladies, because I have mostly ladies in my classes, I don't want you ladies to catch what I've got because this isn't healthy. And I think I started to realise that, and that's not what I wanted. I didn't want that for me, and I didn't want that for other people whose lives I could influence.
It's funny that you felt like it in a way of like a disease that you could catch, because when I was going through that myself, I felt like terribly guilty and shameful that I had these behaviours behind closed doors, and then I would stand up like this picture of health in front of everybody else to be admired and inspire them. But at the same time, I never thought anybody else could ever be ill. I just thought it was me, and it was my shameful, dark secret. And that's why it was so hard to come out initially and talk about it.
Yeah, I could understand that. I think by this point, I had already been in circles where I knew there were other women that suffered from it. So I did carry the guilt and shame, but I knew that I wasn't the only. I knew there were loads of people out there that were doing what I was doing. And I want to be careful how I say this, but I actually questioned the picture of health and fitness that how can I word it? I questioned the picture of health and fitness that was being taught to people through the fitness industry. I questioned it. I questioned if it really was healthy, or if there was a lot more of what I was suffering with going on.
That's interesting. And how long ago was that?
Oh my gosh, I'm really not good remembering that.
So quite some time then.
Well, yeah, because I'd say my proper recovery from food has probably been the last, say, 3-4 years. I mean, it did start before that, but my behaviours have been a lot better. They've been a lot healthier for me in the last few years. So probably within the last 6 years or so, maybe. It's hard to remember exactly. Some of it kind of all blurs and merges, but
yeah. And then do you think that in the industry you felt like tremendous pressure on your body image to look a certain way as an instructor?
Definitely, because, oh gosh, you know, for example, if I was on holiday, I didn't want to tell people I was a fitness instructor because I thought they would expect me to have a six pack, which I didn't, or an eight pack or whatever pack, which I didn't. And even when I was sort of, you know, fit and strong or whatever, I never, for me personally, my journey hasn't been, I never took it to the level where I was like, I'm stripping fat and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, or I'm going into bodybuilding or anything like that. But I was just, you know, really exercising, just really into the health and fitness, or what was called health and fitness. So yeah, but I would hate on holiday for people to know I was a fitness instructor. And if I was out or met people and they said, oh, what do you do for a living? And I said, fitness instructor, I immediately felt they were going to judge me on my body and how I looked. And I think that's just because I was judging myself, really. So I was projecting that onto them. I was probably thinking, I don't look good enough for a fitness instructor. And I would compare myself to other female fitness instructors. Gosh, well, she's got really ripped abs, or she's got this, or she can lift this much weight. And yeah.
Do you feel like there was a competition amongst other fitness professionals?
I can't say that I felt it personally. So I think I've been really blessed and come across I've come across some lovely fitness instructors, and I never felt that competition. No, it kind of felt like, and sometimes still can, that everyone was just in their own personal hell of trying to attain this image of perfection or whatever they thought it was. It just almost like everyone had these blinkers on and they were going for this goal, and the goalposts always change. I never really felt the competition though, no.
So just going back to the pressures that you felt of the public judging you, like on holiday, did you ever feel like on holiday or at home, but the public looking at you in terms of what you eat? So if you had to particularly eat clean food in front of people,
what, that they would judge me for what I was eating?
Yeah.
Do you mean that they would be looking at my food to see, oh, is she having a donut? Or actually, what springs to mind is I was shopping in Morrison's once, and I saw a member from one of my classes, and she did sort of do a little scan and went, oh, okay, what you got there, what you got there. But at the time, I was still dividing foods into good and bad, fat and thin foods. So I didn't have anything. Oh, I think I had some chocolate for my husband, and I think that was it. And she went, oh, is that for you? And I was really quick to go, oh, no, it's my husband, and he really likes this chocolate. And so maybe a little bit.
It's funny that, because I had that in such a massive way, and I just could not eat anything that was out of my healthy list, you know, like in public, because I think I must have just built up this over time, where people in a working environment, because I used to work in corporate fitness, so we would go up onto the street and people would buy food and things in front of each other at lunchtime, and everybody would always be checking each other's food. So as the fitness professionals walking around, it's like we had this, like we were holier than other people, you know, walking around in our fit bodies and having to eat fit food. We were constantly representing the gym, even though we were outside of the gym. So you just couldn't eat anything that was unhealthy. And then that kind of just stuck with me, and the rest of my life up until recently, when I've changed everything, I have felt that way.
That sort of fear of judgment or people watching.
And just how can you call yourself a fitness instructor but you're eating an ice cream? You know, that's bad. So definitely you said, the list of good food, bad food, fat food and thin food.
Yeah. And now what I want is, I want people to be able to see that, oh, she eats everything, but she loves herself and she looks after herself. And that's the kind of example that I want to be now. Because I think that other stuff is like bondage, and actually what I want is freedom, and that's what I want to promote.
Definitely. So we'll come back to that in a second. We're just whizzing back to your therapy with that evening that you went out and it seemed like everything was made to be, and you met your new therapist. What type of therapy did you have then that really helped you get over all of those issues?
So Right, so I only ended up seeing her for a handful of sessions, not very long, and I can't remember what kind of therapist she was. We didn't really get stuck into it because at the time, she kept saying to me, "You need to go to this." It's called a 12-step fellowship. So they've got Alcoholics Anonymous, but they've also got Overeaters Anonymous, Anorexic and Bulimic Anonymous, and all these different ones. And at the time, she kept saying to me, "You need to go to Overeaters Anonymous," which I hadn't heard of. And she said, "That's going to help you more than I can help you." So I ended up looking into that, and then I stopped seeing her, and I went there for a while. And that's when, so there, the first thing they tried to do was get me to start eating 3 meals a day, which I found really difficult because I was like, in the fitness industry, no, I need to eat 5 smaller meals a day. And even when I was talking, when I was training, or because I was still exercising and stuff then, and I'd be talking to other people or friends who were into fitness, and they'd be going, "The trouble is, like, you eat 3 big meals a day, and you need to be eating smaller, but 5 times a day." And I had to sort of back that off, and you know, and I ended up just saying to people, I can't, like, I've had an issue with bulimia and anorexia, and this is what I need to do right now. So yeah, so that kind of started that, and I was there for a while. It's also a spiritual program, and you look at emotional things that have gone on in your life, and you know, you look to God to heal and restore that. So I was there for a while, and then a few years later, I went to group therapy, which I don't know what kind of therapy that is, but yeah, it was like group counselling. So you've got 2 counsellors, and they facilitate the group, and people are just sharing how they feel, and then when I finished that, I saw one-to-one.
Did everybody have like the same issue as you, or did you find that other people's behaviours triggered you into getting worse?
No, so basically this was like a treatment centre for people who had addictions. So it wasn't just for food stuff, it was also alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, whatever it might be. But there, and so I went there, but what I noticed is that the symptom might look different. The thing that we use might look different. Somebody might have got their fix through gambling, or somebody might have done it through picking up a drink, or somebody might have done it through online porn, or somebody would have done it through restricting their food. But actually, the wounding and the emotions and the stuff underneath was very similar. So no, I didn't find their behaviours triggered me. And then there was one group once a week, which was just for people with eating issues. No, I didn't find it triggering. No.
So you say you're talking about yourself today and the image that you're trying to put out there, and the message. What would you like to tell people?
Sorry, can you say that again, Nicola?
So just whizzing back forward to today and how you feel about yourself now and your recovery. What image do you want to get out there, and what sort of message do you want to tell people?
Honestly, this is what I want for myself, and this is the journey I feel I'm on, and this is what I want to tell others, that you have intrinsic value and worth, that you are already beautiful, and that we don't exercise to be beautiful or to be okay or to be better. We can exercise and we can look after ourselves because we're worth doing that, because we're already lovable, and we've already got value and worth, and we're already beautiful. And yeah, that's and on a sort of a practical side with regards to exercise and food, I can only put out, this is the message I would want to put out, which is what I am developing in my life, is find something you enjoy. If you want to exercise, something that's not punishing, something that you just enjoy, you look forward to, you enjoy doing it, and do it from a loving place rather than a punishing place. And food is food. It's not morally good or bad. It's not evil or good. It's just food, and that you're worth looking after.
Absolutely. So if anybody listening would like to contact you, or if they have any questions, are you happy to share your social media or email address?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm a bit of a novice with social media, but I'm looking to get more into it. But I do have a Facebook account, which I'm really impressed with.
Share with us your Facebook account.
Oh, so what? You just want my name? Is
Yeah.
that what people do? Just look
Yeah.
for my name. Yeah, so it'd be Natasha Briant, Briant,
Brilliant.
and I'm wearing a red blazer.
And Natasha is also going to be hosting my special event, the Smash Your Scales and Regain Your Worth. So I'm not 100% sure when this audio is going to be coming out, but if it happens to be past the event, then hopefully it was a success and we'll be running more events in the future. So please keep posted for that, and myself and Natasha will be doing lots more help with you guys with body image and food and exercise issues. So thank you so much, Natasha, for being on the show today. I think
No problem.
your
Thanks,
story,
Nicola.
it's very brave of you to talk about it, and I think it just takes from somebody to have been there and done it for other people to relate to you and just know that there is a way out and that other people are going through similar things or have been through it and that they can definitely get out of it. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.